Then check the aileron with its servo and trim tab, flap and track fairings, the elevators with their servo and trim tabs, the tailplane, the rudder, and the air brake. Click on the respective area to have a more detailed view. The left side of the aircraft is checked in the same manner. Additionally, the flap position shall be checked according to the markings on the inner surface of pylon number 2. Click on the respective area to have a more detailed view. The first step of the pre-flight checks is to check that the air brake lever is fully forward and the white air brake annunciator is out. It is normal on some aircraft, unpowered for a long time, that the air brake is slightly opened as hydraulic closure pressure is not available. During the external checks, the flap position is noticed. Confirm this position with the flap lever position on the flight deck. The flap gauge may not be used at this stage. It reads below zero as the electrical bus bars are unpowered. After the bus bars have been powered, the 3 spoiler switches are turned on. We are now moving on to the ground test panel, where the stall systems are tested. When a test button is pressed, either stall warning or stall ident, the respective threshold angle of attack is simulated within the system. Starting with stall ident 1, pressing and holding this button will operate the ident unit without any warn signal. Therefore, no stick push will occur. After a short delay, the ident 1 flight annunciator and the amber central warning panel caption "Stall ident" illuminate. When the button is released, the warnings extinguish. That procedure is repeated with stall ident 2. Pressing and holding of stall warn 1 will operate the warn unit 1, and both stick shakers should operate. Repeat this procedure for warn unit 2. Now the flap system is tested by these 3 switches. The switches which are inhibited in flight test safety lane 1 and control lanes 1 and 2. Safety lane 2 can only be tested by maintenance. The flap safety button is pressed and released. The amber flap in-op central warning panel caption will illuminate and extinguish after 12 to 15 seconds. Then, the flap control fault yellow button is pressed and released to check the integrity of flap control lane 1. The amber flap fault caption at the central warning panel illuminates for 12 to 15 seconds. This test is repeated for control lane 2 by the flap control green button. Full movement of rudder, aileron, and elevator trim is now checked. Note that both hydraulic systems have to be pressurized during rudder trim check. After these checks, set aileron and rudder trim to neutral and elevator trim into the green band. During the elevator trim check, the electric trim has to be checked too. Ensure the trim wheel moves in the correct sense and that electrical trim is not activated by a single split switch. Note that moving the split switches in opposite directions causes a flight guidance system fault, accompanied by the white FGC 1 or 2 and the amber EL trim annunciators. The aileron and elevator disconnect handles must be in, and the aileron elevator uncoupled caption on the central warning panel out. Before engine start, the elevator trim is set according to valid load and trim sheet, and the aileron and rudder trims are checked for neutral position. After engine start or during taxi, depending on your operator's policy, the flap lever is set to the takeoff position and confirmed by the flap gauge. During the taxi checks, the Config Check button is pressed and held to check whether the aircraft is in a safe condition for takeoff. At this stage, the warnings must remain off, otherwise the configuration has to be rectified. Finally, the elevators, ailerons, and the rudder are checked for full and free movement. During the check of the ailerons and the elevators, the respective servo tab is fully deflected, and with further column or hand wheel input, the servo tab picks up the control surface to its full extent. Especially this is important to drain out water or de-icing fluids from any holes and gaps. Note that the control forces are higher in light tailwind conditions. After the check, hold the column in its neutral position to ensure complete fluid drainage. When applying input to the hand wheel, check the roll spoiler gauge for roll spoiler deployment to 10 degrees either side. If an aileron control jam or an uncommanded roll is detected, the pilot flying must immediately announce roll jam and immediately try to regain control. When a force of at least 57 pounds is applied to the hand wheel, the strut linking both circuits will collapse, and the aileron disconnect mechanism will be signaled electrically in turn. It is the pilot not flying's memory item to pull the aileron disconnect handle in order to back up the disconnection of the ailerons. Disconnection is confirmed by illumination of the amber central warning panel caption "Aileron Elevator Uncoupled." If the pilot flying cannot achieve roll control, as it might be his or her circuit that is jammed, aircraft control is transferred and the other pilot will attempt to regain control. The autopilot may not be used following an aileron disconnect, and turbulence shall be avoided when possible, as well as landings with crosswinds in excess of 15 knots. Following a disconnection, control circuit friction may be higher than normal and aileron trim might be less effective. Anticipate the need for roll control and make small inputs slowly. Set up a simulated final approach at a safe altitude to determine handling characteristics using a landing flap setting of 24 degrees if the available landing distance is not limiting. If an elevator jam or an uncommanded pitch attitude is detected, the pilot flying immediately announces pitch jam and attempts to regain control. When a force of at least 60 pounds is applied, the circuit connecting mechanism will split. It is the pilot not flying's memory item to pull elevator disconnect handle fully out to permanently disconnect both circuits. Otherwise, the two circuits would reconnect when both columns are realigned during subsequent maneuvering. The button in the handle protrudes to prevent the handle from being pushed in inadvertently. A disconnection of the two circuits is confirmed by an amber central warning panel caption, "Aileron Elevator Uncoupled." If the pilot flying cannot achieve pitch control, aircraft control is transferred and the other pilot will attempt to regain control. The autopilot may not be used following an elevator disconnect, and turbulence shall be avoided when possible, as well as landings with crosswinds in excess of 15 knots. Handling characteristics are different from normal. Using large deflections, elevator buffet may be felt, and asymmetric elevator deflection might lead to roll tendency. Moreover, if the left circuit is jammed, Q-feel is not available, and if the right circuit is jammed, the G-weight is not available. Set up a simulated final approach at a safe altitude to determine handling characteristics using a landing flap setting of 24 degrees if the available landing distance is not limiting, and trim the aircraft so that the column is in the neutral position as shown here. Plan for a long straight final and reset this trim position by 500 feet